Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 43. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us on this Monday show, this November 1st show, and more importantly, a victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they beat the Cleveland Browns Sunday afternoon, Week 8, 15-10, move to 4-3 on the season, their first time over 500 since Week 1. And Dave, this was a big win. I don't want to, I cannot overstate it enough how big of a win this was. It wasn't always pretty, but that does not matter. A win is a win is a win. And you could really tell how much it meant, even more so than usual, to these guys, Ben, Tomlin, Hayward, etc., how much this game, for a multitude of reasons. But this one was a big one, and it certainly meant a lot to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Absolutely, and said for the game that it's hard to imagine this team having a chance to win the AFC North division if they go down 0-2, 8 weeks into the season in their first two games, obviously, and had that hiccup against the Bengals several weeks ago. There, a game that you went into thinking, man, they should win this one, and they didn't, and then you go into this game on Sunday in Cleveland. I know I didn't have them winning. I thought a lot had to happen. I thought there was a lot of check boxes that they had to mark in order to win the game. And I'll be damned if they didn't do that. I mean, really, only one real box that I think that they didn't check, and that was don't allow Myles Garrett to wear Dan Moore Jr. as a hat box. But other than that, I mean, I double checked the standings, the full NFL standings last night on the official NFL media site, and I still don't see anything over there that says anything about style points. So, thank God for that. But I mean, a win is a win is a win, and any win on the road against the AFC North, competitor is a big win, and they did seem extremely happy about that. Tomlin was fired up, obviously coming off of the week where he had to answer the questions about the USC questions and all like that, and then Ben Roethlisberger. A lot of people obviously got a pretty good idea that potentially was Ben's last trip to First Energy Stadium, and a place where he's obviously played well, the whole state of Ohio, really, throughout.
50 wins, right, Ohio right now?
Yeah, throughout his career there. So you could tell after the game what that win meant to him as well, too. So congrats to them. I mean, 3 victory Mondays in a row. What in the Tag Nation's going on?
Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely want to celebrate this one today and talk about how Pittsburgh got the victory. I do want to do some housekeeping beforehand, though, talk about injury report and inactives. From an inactive standpoint, and actually I should mention before we even go to that point, the Steelers on Saturday elevated Taco Charlton after ruling Melvin Ingram out. He, of course, did not play in this game, supposedly due to a groin injury. We'll see if he's still a Steeler this time tomorrow, I guess. But Taco Charlton elevated and played in this one. And so from an active standpoint, the only real surprises, I think, from that aspect was Zach Banner being down. I wouldn't even call that a surprise. We both kind of thought he would be inactive. But Pittsburgh having all 4 of their running backs active. That's Harris, McFarland, Snell, and Blah. So Banner still unable to get a hat. I thought maybe there was a chance because they didn't call up Kevin Rader, and so maybe you could do some sort of tackle-eligible role for Banner. That did not happen, and then all 4 running backs being active in this game.
Yeah, I thought I went into the week thinking probably not going to see Zach Banner, be active for this game against the Browns. But obviously, as the week progressed, and you saw what happened with Eric Ebron, when Eric Ebron was officially ruled out, you thought, okay, one of two things might happen. Kevin Rader, may be elevated from the practice squad on Saturday, and if that doesn't happen, then it opened up the in my opinion, a real legitimate possibility at that point that Zach Banner could get a helmet, because you had Anthony McFarland coming back there. You thought, man, what's the likelihood of this team dressing 4 running backs and a fullback on top of it there? And then obviously being down a tight end, if they did not elevate Kevin Radar, you think, well, you could always use Zach Banner as a tackle eligible, even if you didn't start him in this game. At least give him a chance to run around out there, maybe get 3 or 4 snaps and start getting back on the field a little bit there. So once again, I went into the week thinking no way Zach Banner is going to get a helmet, and then I be honest with you, I ended Saturday night thinking, well, Zach Banner's probably going to get a helmet. And so I figure it a bit. I consider it a bit of an upset that he didn't get a helmet. So look, because what do you get with Caleb Balaj? Special teams wise, not much. But I guess you could look at it as, maybe you have more confidence in Caleb Balaj as a running back, and then of course Benny Snell is a special teams player, and maybe you decide to dress him that way. But I mean, what does this say about Zach Banner at this point if he can't get a helmet over a number 4 running back, especially when you're down a tight end?
Yeah, nothing good. And I think one big reason for his inactivity is because, the offensive line, the starters were playing well, they're growing, they're gelling. We saw that yesterday, and so they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want to put Banner in the lineup and potentially either bench a core 4 or shift him and bench more and just playing a lot of musical chairs along the offensive line, trying to and is finding its stride. And then that lack of versatility he has as a backup, being basically a right tackle only, whereas Joe Haig can play either tackle spot. We'll give Haig the edge, but they gave Banner that 2-year, $9 million deal and have not gotten a snap out of it so far. And so that's obviously he just came back, but obviously that's not trending in the right direction for his value in earning that contract, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess tackle eligible wasn't even in the cards, right? Because I don't even think Joe Haig saw the field, did he?
Right. They have not done that once this entire season, not in training camp, not in preseason, not in the regular season. So I don't think it's even really an idea under Matt Canada, especially when a guy like Zach Gentry, a big body, who can kind of give you that extra offensive line type run blocking, is playing pretty well.
I mean, you know how many times I've criticized over the years. Oh Lord, I mean, if you're gonna put a tight end on the field, put a tight end on the field that can block. Now, obviously, in certain situations, you can understand short yards. You want a bigger body out there when everybody in plus Jesus knows that you're going to run the football. in that. So it doesn't hurt my feelings that they're using tight ends as tight ends. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But even so, once again, you didn't have to use him a ton, but I kind of figured that, maybe you could find a way, because of Eric Ebron being out of this game and the fact that you did not elevate Kevin Radar, that, maybe you could get Zach Banner, at least get him in uniform, man, and get that part of the process, gone. I mean, this is a guy now that hasn't played an offensive snap since week 1 of the 2020 season. And yeah, he had a setback with a knee, yada, yada. But I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included, even with him having to start the season, on IR, figured by, once we get to week 8, surely the bet would be that Zach Banner would have an offensive snap under his belt, and he doesn't. And with the things that transpired again on Sunday there, looking forward to week 9, Monday night game against the Chicago Bears, Banner might not get a helmet again.
Yeah, may not be the case, but I thought maybe against a 4-3 team you could see a bit of a shift there, but that ultimately did not happen. But that was the inactive list. No other big surprises there. Let's talk about the injuries here briefly. Caleb Balaj with ribs, according to Mike Tomlin. Don't know when he got hurt. Carried the ball one time. I guess maybe that was whenever he got hurt on our field toss play to Myles Garrett's side, which was not a good
ribs.
idea. You okay over there? You hungry?
Thinking about some ribs. I'm hungry, man. I am hungry. My wife's making some chili for us today, but every time Mike Tomlin classifies it as ribs, I think of the old Homer Simpson, ribs or donuts, yeah. And I always think about that Edward Nelson clip as well. Carry on.
Yeah, so Balaj, that injury, and then of course the big one here, Chris Boswell getting injured on that failed fake field goal attempt there late in the first half, late in the second quarter, but that concussion. He's in protocol, so obviously he'll have to go through protocol and pass things. The good news is Pittsburgh does not play again until Monday night against Chicago, so Bos will have a couple extra days to hopefully clear protocol. I'm sure they'll be bringing in kickers and potentially even sign somebody, maybe to the practice squad, just as a backup policy, because you never know with the concussion protocol. So obviously that play a disaster, a million ways to Sunday, but the injury was the most long-lasting impact of the play and forced Pittsburgh to go be without a kicker for the entire second half of that game.
Is Matthew Wright still with the Jaguars or no?
I believe so. I haven't checked, but with what he was kicking for him, I can't imagine they're making a change there.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, we'll see what. Look, it looked like it was a lot worse than just maybe a concussion that Boswell was dealing with when he got up off of that ground and started limping around there. So, obviously, hope that he's able to clear concussion protocol fairly quickly at the start of this week. The team having an extra day will obviously help there. I was more worried about maybe something with knee or something like that, because he once again he got a even if he isn't in concussion protocol there, I kind of wonder if he kicks returns back to that game and all like that. Now that you brought him up, why don't we just jump feet first right into the middle of this thing and go right to that?
Okay, sure, yeah. So we know the situation. It was 3-3, ended about 2 minutes left, I think, or so in the second half of the first half of the Browns game, second quarter. Pittsburgh's at what yard line were they at? Inside the 10, I believe. Do you know the exact yard line?
I will find it, sir. I got the game book open right here. Let's see here. It was at the 10-yard line, 4th and 9.
Yeah, so it's a direct snap to Boz. He rolls to his right. Nothing's open. He's got two options. It was Freiermuth and Zach Gentry. He's holding on to the football for as long as possible, waiting for something to happen. Obviously, the play's busted. It's one of those things where it's either going to work right away or it's not going to work at all. Throws in the triple coverage over Gentry's head, incomplete, and then he gets hit hard, out of bounds. It should have been a penalty. I think it was acknowledged by Steratoy, but the refs that were officiating the game said that they didn't see it, or whatever the case was, they didn't see anything illegal on the play. To me, it's a pretty clear cut. Should have been a flag, but obviously when it's a kicker and it's a fake, refs are looking at different stuff. It's not like it's a traditional quarterback, so sometimes that stuff more apt to get missed. And so Boz gets hurt, leaves the game. Presley Harvin has to do kickoffs to some very much mixed results, and Pittsburgh can't kick the rest of the game. So obviously, I understand that with fake field goals and any sort of trick plays, if they work, you're a genius, the way it was when Boz hit Villanueva a couple years ago. If they don't, you're an idiot, and that's the way Tomlin gets painted in this game. I just don't know what the look Pittsburgh was trying to get was, because the Browns were not fooled one bit. They immediately off the snap knew this was a fake. Everyone was covered. It's not like it was just bad execution or a defender made an amazing play to recover or anything like that. The Browns were not fooled for one microsecond. And so I'm just trying to understand what Pittsburgh saw that would give them the confidence to make this call.
I thought it should have been a penalty. I don't think you look at the still shots and all like that, at least from what we have so far on it, and some of the media pictures floating around of the shot, it looks like head and neck area. If that's a quarterback, I don't know if the refs just got all caught up into actually watching a fake field goal play out, and maybe you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you get caught up in a moment, you don't pay attention to some things that maybe you should pay attention to. But I really thought that should be a penalty on that play, and we'll see soon enough what the league thinks come Saturday, whether or not Elliott is fined or not. If he's fined, then obviously the league missed one there. If he's not, then it's the league saying, hey, we looked at it and they were right not to call it. I've got to believe that they're going to end up fining Elliott for that. Not that matters when it comes to the game, but it should have been a flag nonetheless. All right, now in the decision in and of itself, right after it happened, see Boz on the ground hurt. Obviously, no the ball over on downs there. I was incredibly mad at the call. But I think when you go back and you look at these things the way we're supposed to, and you calm down a little bit, and I put this out on Twitter. You really just kind of echoed it and just different words there. If it works, everybody's happy. Oh, what a call! That caught him off guard. Great time for that fake field goal. Got a touchdown. Stole one there. When it doesn't work, and when it doesn't work, and you lose your kicker due to an injury for the rest of the game, then you think, what in God's name was he thinking there? There. It's a very, very results. I mean, there's a lot of things throughout a game that become very results biased. This is indeed one of those things, and it's very, 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 very difficult, I think, to look at this thing in a vacuum. You understand maybe the aggressiveness on the road. Maybe they did see. I'm with you. I sure would like to know a little bit more about what they saw that maybe they thought that they could get there. Right. Because even kind of pre-snap from at least from the TV angle, because they're focused on Boz first, so you don't get to see a lot of the minutia, and we won't until the all 22 comes out in a day and a half or so. But I'm really interested to see what maybe they saw, and there's got to be some sort of kill switch on that, right? I mean, if there's not, then, or is it go, and there's no kills? I mean, you would think there's something in there that allows somebody to kill that if they didn't see it. Once again, it's so incredibly hard to look at this thing in a vacuum here. To me, it's one thing too if maybe you're doing it from, I don't know, the 4-yard line, 3-yard line or so. Right. But I mean, you're talking the ball was placed at the 9. And then by the time you drop back and by the time he gets a snap, he's around the 15 or so, 16. I mean, that's no short. It's either wide open or it's not. Period.
Right.
And you look at the analytics of the potential success rate and all like that at Snapple football. I think you throw that all out the window because it's either 100% it's probably going to work or it's more than likely not going to work. Looking at it, calming down, thinking about it, I still don't like the call.
Me neither. And again, I understand that is certainly influenced by the result of it. But again, we talk about what was the look. What did you anticipate getting on that play? As you mentioned, the distance. For reference, the touchdown pass the Boz threw against Denver in 2018 came from the 2, not the 10. So it's a lot closer in that instance. And then just the situation. It's a low-scoring game. It's tied at 3. You're getting ball at half, go up 6-3, get a stop, and then get the ball at halftime being up 6-3 and maybe going down the field and scoring again. In a low-scoring game where, to me, points were at a premium, it's not like it's a shootout where you need touchdowns. You knew it was not going to be a high-scoring game, and it was not ultimately, 15-10 being the final. Now, obviously, you never would expect or predict your kicker getting hurt. You just think either it's going to work or it's not. But obviously, it had big ramifications for the rest of the game. But just given the situation, I mean, I'm pretty conservative with the play calling by nature. I don't like a lot of trick plays, but I think there you should have kicked it. But as you said, I mean, obviously if it works and Gentry's wide open, then everyone's talking about what a great call it was.
Yeah, I kind of, you kind of wonder, okay, how would Alex and I address this had it worked? Hopefully, I mean, we've addressed, I think, in the past successful, I guess, trick plays, if you will, like that.
Right. I'll just, sorry to interrupt, but I'll say that's like the throw to Deontay to win the game. I was saying just run the football. I was saying do not throw. So there's an example of me who would have been conservative by nature, but obviously Pittsburgh got a great outcome out of it.
Right. I mean, look, I was thinking once again, I was in the mind frame, and we're really jumping ahead here, but I was in the mind frame too. Man, if you can't run it out right here, something's wrong with you. I mean, that's why you got the running back. That's why you drafted a couple offensive linemen. I mean, if you can't run it here and run this clock out, then when can you run it? Now, obviously it was an RPO, and right. you did obviously a great job of breaking that down this morning on SteelersDepot.com. I mean, it was the right play. Ben made the excellent read. I mean, the rub on that side was perfect. I mean, so many things were absolutely perfect with that one decision, and it effectively won you the ball game. on top of it there. So, but once again, I try to settle down immediately. I was incensed at first. How can you do something like you lose your kicker for the rest of the game? That's going to come back to haunt you if they lose this game. Tom, you start getting in that out of that objective blogger mode into irate fire everybody fan mode. You know what I'm saying, and that was my initial thought on that. And obviously, I do a good job, I think, of going back and calming down and looking at some of this stuff. But once again, it's very hard to put that fake into a vacuum. But after looking at everything and all like that, once again, I wasn't a huge fan of the call for a lot of things that you mentioned too. Plus, points are on a premium there. You're already winning in certain areas that probably a lot of people didn't think. And maybe that's what he thought. He thought, man, we really are playing good. Maybe I want to steal an extra 4 points here just in case here. So I understand why he did it, but in the same breath, I didn't like the call.
Yeah, me neither. But Pittsburgh gets the victory. Presley Harvin did kickoffs. One went out of bounds. The other one was, I guess, good enough. And Pittsburgh, mercifully, obviously, they had chances to kick it. They had to do 2-point conversions and go forward on fourth down and those kinds of things. But we're not in a situation where Harvin had the kick, which is good because I don't believe he's ever made a field goal ever, high school, college, or obviously the NFL. And so that would have been brand new for him. Cam Sutton somehow becomes the holder. It's just a comedy of errors are there with the operation. So luckily, Pittsburgh were able to overcome that obstacle and win the game.
Did you ever see Cameron Sutton take a attempt to hold at any point during training camp?
No, never. The only guys that do it are the quarterbacks. Ben will do it, and I guess he did say he was the emergency holder, and Rudolph has done it as well. But I guess what Ben had said after the game was that when they knew that Harvin had never kicked before and they didn't want to risk, Ben getting his hand kicked or something like that accidentally, so they would just go into Sutton being the guy to try to mitigate the risk of injury. I don't know why Rudolph can't hold in that situation. He's done it before and just let him, the risk of injury there for him, I guess. But yeah, very strange. I guess I don't know how they decide on Sutton. I guess they just go, you're a smart guy, Cam. Let's figure it out here on the fly. I don't know what the process there is, but no, I've never seen Cam Sutton be the holder before.
Okay. And I guess good that we didn't have to see any of that happen, period.
Yeah, for sure.
There. I was a bit surprised, though, to learn that Harvin's never even attempted or made anything like that.
He's attempted 2. If Max Preps is to be believed in high school, he's had an extra point and a field goal attempted, both missed. I do not know distances of either.
What the hell do they do over there on the side? Don't you think you could, at this point, maybe get him a couple of swings of the leg there during practices at some point now, moving forward? And what, did he lie on his resume or what?
Well, he's a punter, and but luckily, as you said, you didn't have to find out how good of a punt or good of a kicker Presley Harvin III was, and you still get the victory in spite of all that. So anyway, Dave, that's the injury there. That's the fake field goal. Obviously, it was ugly, and special teams was bad for the Danny Smith Forever brand yesterday. We'll talk about that later in the show. But I want to talk about the happy thoughts because Pittsburgh gets the victory here, 15-10. I think they played not a perfect game. Obviously, it was ugly in a lot of ways. But, man, when it comes to trench play, to me, the biggest key, the biggest litmus test I had coming into this game, how well Steelers could run the football, how well they could defend the run. They passed with flying colors in that regard, and they really were the more physical team. They ran the ball better than Cleveland ran the ball, and they stopped the run pretty well against a very, very tough number 1 rushing offense in football. So kudos to Pittsburgh because I thought they did a great job up front, offensive line and defensive line.
They sure did, and we'll talk about how many boxes this team had to potentially check for this game on Sunday to go in their favor there. A lot of those boxes had to do on both sides of the football and running the football there, and you really, really felt that the Steelers had to be the better ground team in this game. And I guess from a yards per carry standpoint, it probably wasn't so, but from a successful run rate, it sure was, man. And that's, I think, if you ever want any good reason to never, ever use yards per carry stat again, yesterday's game was a perfect example of that. So, getting 2 yards on 2nd and 4 might not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal in in nerd world. I think so. And the Steelers, it even felt, just not even looking at and tallying, because that's one thing I do now during games. I sit here with just, simple check mark system of how many runs are successful after each one for both of the teams there. The Browns weren't getting hardly any check marks early there, and the Steelers were. Especially when it came to running back carries and running back carries specific. And throughout the game, they were the more consistent team when it came to run success rate. They went through a little bit of lull there, I think, after the start. I think at one point they were 1 for 4 on their first 4. But after that, they really came alive with being able to register successful runs. And especially with Najee Harris there, and then later in the game, you could really see the difference in the in the two offensive lines. The Steelers' offensive line was getting a lot of push up front, whereas the Browns weren't. You could tell defensively with the Steelers that, the sellout was, we're going to stop this run, and we're going to make Baker Mayfield beat us with screen game, short passes, intermediate passes, whatever. We're going to make Baker beat us with his arm. And the Browns couldn't do it. They dropped 6 passes in the game. I think that a lot of people will choose maybe not to look at that being a huge component of this game, but it was. And the Steelers did, though, however, when the Browns tried to run the football, they sniffed it out most of the time. And, the Browns ended with a very poor, successful run rate overall. And I haven't looked back to see what it rates for the season, but it had to be their worst successful run rate of the season to boot.
What was the run? What were the run rates for both offenses in this game? Do you have the final numbers on that? I'm sure you tweeted them out. I saw them mid-game. Yeah,
I think I did. Hold on a minute here. I think I know I did the running backs. I can't remember what I tweeted out.
Well, at least just the running backs. Because I'm assuming Pittsburgh was better than the Browns, but just to really kind of put that number into clear perspective about how much more successful Pittsburgh was than Cleveland was running the football, which was not expected to be the script in this game.
The Steelers had a nice, successful run rate against the Browns on Sunday. Let's see. What did I do with?
I'm guessing 50 to 55% for Pittsburgh, and probably like 40 to 45% for Cleveland. If I'm just taking some wild guesses here as you look it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't remember what I did with it, Alex. I'm gonna have to try to go back in my timeline and look. I don't know what I labeled it under there.
Okay. But Pittsburgh was definitely better than Cleveland, right?
Oh yeah, it wasn't even that close. I don't think. Hold on here.
Right. So, yeah, that was the story of this game to me. Pittsburgh's offensive line, super physical. I know there's already been a couple of videos from national media kind of breaking it down, but I definitely want to get in the all-22 and probably do a video breakdown on that. Some really good movement up front on double teams by basically everyone. I don't have any specific names in mind, but Dotson, maybe Kendrick Green, Trey Turner, just getting guys on the ground, getting pushes up front, getting Harris to the second level, and then he definitely churned out some tough yards, second, third level, even whenever plays to get stopped up at the line of scrimmage, a 4th and 1 play where there's no push and Harris just kind of runs through Ronnie Harrison and gets the sticks and picks up the first down. So, but I just thought the overall physicality of this group, which is what Pittsburgh was investing in, what they were preaching, what Adrian Clem was focusing on, really evident in this game. And that's a big reason why Pittsburgh's rushing attack was overall successful.
I tell you, there were 2 runs in that game too there where Najee Harris most definitely was the difference on. One of them was the 3rd and 1. I thought. I think that was about 6 minutes or so left in the in the third quarter. It looks, and it's a long 3rd and 1, I think, as well too. And Najee looks like he's turned sideways, and he still managed to get through the initial contact and get the first down there. And the other one that was probably even more impressive than that was, I think, a 3rd and 5 run somewhere in the fourth quarter there. And you had to, I'm guessing that they were thinking they were 4 down territory in that situation. Obviously, you don't have a kicker to fall back on there. And I think that run maybe caught the Browns a little bit. Maybe they weren't thinking situationally what the Steelers might do in that situation. And the Steelers ran on 3rd and 5 and they got the first down. And I thought that was a key run by Najee in in that game. Just 7 of 22 runs by the Browns were successful against the Steelers as well.
Wow. So that is 7 to 22. That is 31.8%. Yeah, that has to be a season low, unless it's the Cardinals game. But either way, that's a really low number for them.
And the great Nick Chubb specifically, just 5 of 16 runs were successful.
So that's under a third. That's 31%. So right in line with the overall team number.
Now, just looking at just Najee's carries alone, 11 of the 26 runs by Najee Harris against the Browns were successful there. Now, obviously, that's two less successful than the 50% we talk about. But the way they were running the ball, I think the final 4 carries Najee had were unsuccessful. But they're more of, we're just running high diddle, sending Najee up the middle.
That was just protect the football.
Right.
Just get down. Don't fumble.
Right. Hold on to the football, kill some clock time there. So, I mean, you hate to chop these up. That you see what I'm saying? We're getting into we're getting into cherry picking 11 or 26 runs to make them look better. But I think you have to add a little bit of context to them, because I mean, let's say you even take out the last 2 runs there, which were quite obviously to help try to run clock and just don't turn over the football in that situation. You take 2 of those away there, he's 11 of 24 at that I mean, that's obviously acceptable at that point. I mean, you get into at least to the point where they are with the lead in that game, Najee has a successful run rate. So once again, it shame on us for cherry picking it. But I think it needs a little bit of context in there. When it mattered most in the first three quarters of the game, he ran the football well. The offensive line blocked well. Once again, I think the 3rd and 5 was a key run in that game. And just overall, I mean, this is now makes what, really 3, I mean, I guess technically 4 games in a row now. You go back to that Green Bay game, right? They lost it, but there was signs of life when it came to the running game there. So things are moving in the right direction here, and it's a bit of a useless stat, 7 games into the season, but every time that Najee Harris has registered 16 or more carries in a game, the Steelers have won. I mean, it's a loose, arbitrary, silly number, but I mean. We've talked about ahead of this season that this team has to run in order to win. And whenever they are putting the ball in his hands more than 16 times a game, probably more loosely, it's better to talk about 20 to 25 times a game. Run successful early gives you the ability to hopefully run successful late, as I like to say there. So kudos to them. I didn't think they were going to be able to run well on the Browns defense, and you flip it over. That's a tall task to ask that defense to shut down that Browns run defense the way that they did.
Yeah, just last notes on the offense and running the football. Well, again, that was the number 2 run defense in football in Cleveland, so there was no slouches for sure. They were a little beat up and battered, but still had a lot of their core guys in. And I know momentum's kind of a tough thing to quantify, but there's no doubt this young offensive line, this growing offensive line is going to feed off of that stuff. I mean, they got just criticized, and they were not playing well the first 3 weeks of the season. And so now guys like Kendrick Green and Dan Moore and even Kevin Dodson, second-year guy, are seeing kind of the fruits of their labor, all that work you put in, all the so close, we're almost there, we just got to clean up this 1 or 2 things, and it's all coming together. And they're going to feed off of that and have that energy and have that confidence to know that, okay, we can make it work. It is true what coaches have been telling us, that if we just keep plugging away, we're going to see results. They are seeing results. And so kudos to them. And I think they're going to just feed off that energy and that momentum and just kind of that confident feeling of, yes, we can actually do this. It is starting to come together really well for this team. But yeah, defensively, for Pittsburgh, I mean, it wasn't, this was the second fewest yards on the ground that Cleveland has run for this year. Only the second time this season they've been held under 150 on the ground. And the other time was at the Arizona game, and that was a game circumstance thing. This thing was close wire to wire. It's not like Cleveland didn't have good numbers on the ground because Pittsburgh got up 21-0 and then Cleveland had to pass. I mean, it was a wire to wire game, start to finish. And so the fact that you played strong run defense in all 4 quarters with the game being close throughout, I think is even a better example and a more testament of how well this run defense played, because you had to bring your best the entire game. It was not that Cleveland had to throw the ball the entire second half. And so to do that for all 4 quarters is, I think, even more impressive than the numbers may show.
Yeah, look, and the snap totals are already starting to bear that out, right? James Pierre played what, 7? Not what did he play? 9 snaps, 7 snaps, 9 snaps in this game. So I mean, they played a lot heavier looks on defensive side of football in this game for sure. And they were like, look, you're not going to run on us if you're going to beat us. And I think to some degree that. Look, early on, the Browns' offense their screen game was very, very good, and that started to scare me a little bit. Thinking, oh man, the screen game's starting to work. Is that going to start slowing them down, maybe a little bit up front to help facilitate the Browns maybe getting that running game a little bit better? But they were never able to really get any consistent, successful run. I mean, they did have some nice runs in that game, obviously, but they were far and few between in this game overall. So yeah, and what did Cam Hayward say after the game? Stay in your damn gap and make the tackle. And that's it wasn't perfect, but I mean, one good thing too is whenever there was maybe a missed tackle within a couple of yards of the line of scrimmage, someone else was there to finally clean that up, and that was something that kind of has killed them at times during the season. So overall, I thought the tackling was good, and then the gap, at least from the TV angle, the gap soundness seemed to be okay.
Yeah, and that's a subject of my terrible take, that it just to hold Cleveland to those kind of pedestrian numbers for them, that's an 11-man job. That is team run defense. That's D-line, that's linebackers, that's cornerback, that's secondary. You saw Cam Sutton, Joe Hayden making plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's guys staying in gaps, every single man doing their job. So you cannot hold the Browns to under 100 yards, Nick Chubb to under 4 yards a carry, the success rate being 31%, without everyone doing their job and everyone kind of really playing good team run defense. And that's a lot of young guys stepping up, especially along the D-line with Mondo and Buggs and Loudermilk and those kinds of things. So kudos to them because they needed that kind of performance to win, and they got it.
Yeah, how big were those drops by the Browns? 6 in total, I think.
Yeah, they were big. I mean, just ball security in general. I mean, talk about the Jarvis Landry fumble, and it's a great play by Joe Schobert, but that's a big miscue with the drops they had in this one, especially late in that game. You got Jim Sanchez there for Landry on that 4th down that Minka broke up. Great play by him. Odell Beckham Jr. with some alligator arms on one throw down the middle. I think that was the rough in the passer call on Highsmith, so I guess it kind of worked out for Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, the Browns definitely hurt themselves in this game more than Pittsburgh hurt themselves, which is weird considering Pittsburgh was a team without a kicker in the second half of this one. You thought that would hurt them more, but it did not.
Right, and I mean, look, you can't apologize for the other team not making plays, but Cleveland's obviously, I think, kicking themselves this morning of leaving a couple of those plays on the field. And all of what transpired aside, how big was that turnover in that game forced by Joe Schobert? I mean, will that be Tyler Wise's turning point?
I don't know if it'll be that or the Freiermuth touchdown. I think both are equally deserving of the title, but both massive plays. And yeah, with Schobert ripping that football out, we've been talking about this for a long time. Pittsburgh needing to take the football away. They hadn't done it enough this season. They've had some chances. They have not capitalized. That's the name of the game of today's NFL is pressure, sacks, and takeaways. And to get that in that moment, that was a great job by Schobert and certainly one of the keys of the game. Because
they complete that at the 21, and then that was a second and 8 play. They seem to be finding a little bit of rhythm offensively at that point there. That would obviously have been a first down had Jarvis Landry held on to the football. They would have been 1st and 10 at, say, the Steelers 21 with 6:14 left in the ball game there. If they don't score a touchdown there, you have to think that that's early enough there that you probably kick the field goal at some point if you force with a 4th down, right?
If you're the Browns, do you kick the field goal?
Right.
Yeah, you would, because it was 10-9. What was the score of that game? Or
the Steelers were up. It was 15-10 at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think
you probably do? It depends on how much clock you would have burned to get to that point. But Probably.
I mean, you obviously, if you got the first down there at the Steelers 21, you're going to probably get into let's run a little bit of clock mode because if you're an optimist, you're thinking that you got a good chance of scoring a touchdown there and taking the lead, right?
Yeah, you may have. It's hard to say exactly what would have happened, but I'm glad we did not have to find out what the Browns would have tried to do there.
I mean, that was a huge play of the game for sure. And fitting that Joe Schobert, former Cleveland Brown, ripped that ball. Someone keeps trying to say maybe Taco played a part in that. I looked at the TV angle doesn't give a definitive. There's nothing that lets you believe that Taco played a part in that, right?
I don't think so. Playing a part in ripping the football out?
And maybe punching that thing out.
I'll have to go back and check, but I don't believe so. Schobert got credit for the forced fumble, if you're wondering.
Right. I mean, I know he got credit for it. I'm just, people have said, they said check and see if Taco played a part in that. And the TV angle, I don't see where Taco did that. I'm interested to see maybe if the all 22 does. I thought it was all Schobert initially there. But anyway, huge play at that point. And then you get the ball back, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, 6:04 on the clock. Man, if you guys can't run the ball out here and kill this clock, you get what you get at this point. Well, they couldn't do it. Had to run by Najee at 2 yards, incomplete pass to Deontay Johnson, and then the pass to Deontay Johnson on third down short of the chains there. And then you get into punt formation, and not only do you get in punt formation there at your own 28, you get a damn delay of game there. Mm-hmm. And then you follow that up with Harvin punting just 38 yards. I was not glass half full guy at that time.
Right. And then the first play of the Browns ensuing possessions, 12 yards, and one play in, they're in Pittsburgh territory, and you're going, oh no, is this going to be how this thing ends? And obviously did not happen that way.
I mean, they obviously go down. The Browns start getting into Steelers territory. The 3rd and 11, and I talked a lot about liking Rashad Higgins, but I didn't think he had a good game at all. I think he had 1 or 2 drops in that game, and then the false start on 3rd and 11 from the Steelers 25 with 2:05 left in the game was a huge penalty for them in that situation there. Let's look at that 4th and 12 decision on their part with 1:58. I believe they had 2 timeouts, or did they have all 3 timeouts? I know they had all 3 timeouts, I think, left at that point there.
Right.
You got to kick the field goal there, right? Or no?
No, I understood being aggressive there because you had all 3 timeouts, and so if you don't get the conversion, then you can still theoretically get the ball back with some time left. So I mean, I understood being aggressive there and trying to get a play, and it was a good throw by Baker. I mean, Landry could have made that catch, but Minkah, how many times has Minkah Fitzpatrick come up big on a 4th down play late in game over the last 3 seasons? Man, I mean, every time that they need a big play, a big stop on 4th down in their own territory, it feels like Minkah's always the guy around the football.
Yeah, it was absolutely a big play by him. Made up a lot of ground in a big hurry, and I mean, you might as well go ahead and count that as a turnover, right? I mean, because that's what it is, turnover on downs. I mean, those are little things that get hidden in the box score, and we'll talk about at some point, maybe this week we'll be talking about Minkah still doesn't have an interception, but that might as well be an interception. Because it happened on 4th down. There is my viewpoint of there's so many things that are hidden in the box score that never get discussed, and I think that is one of them. That was a huge play in that. Back to the decision though. I think the analytics say that's a toss up in that particular situation there, and I don't know if the analytics takes into account the Steelers being without a kicker at that point. I kind of doubt the bot's that smart there. Maybe it is, but man, I just kept thinking to myself, 4th and 12 is such a long way to go. especially with T.J. Watt going against that right tackle over there that had to replace Conklin in the game, and T.J. Watt had really been heating up at that point, and let something to kind of need time to develop down the field like that. You're going to have to hold on to the football there. I kind of question with 3 timeouts whether or not you kick the field goal at that point, then throw your defense out there to try to get a 3 and out, and then try to win the football game with another field goal.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's fair. I'm sure Stefanski's getting a ton of criticism today. That's kind of the vibe I got, just kind of casually looking over some Brown stuff and what their commentary was. But yeah, for Cleveland, their guys did not step up and make big plays, and for Pittsburgh, their guys stepped up and made big plays and in those kind of key moments. That's kind of how this game got defined. Freiermuth makes that incredible 4th and goal catch, and the Browns drop 6 passes and false start and have all those missed opportunities. And that's kind of how you win those close games, is by making that one play in that big time moment.
Yep, and they did. And it comes down to certain plays in games, whether or not you're able to make them or whether or not the team able to make them, and the Steelers definitely made a play there.
Yeah, to wrap up the Steelers defense, 4 sacks on Baker Mayfield. I believe all came in the first half, I want to say, but T.J. Watt, sack and a half, Cam Hayward getting pressure. Those guys continue to play like studs, but no explosive plays in the pass game, so that was positive to see. A couple of corner routes, but that was it. The Browns are a really good team in terms of their personality, their identity. They have their game plan. They do a great job of sticking to it, and certainly in some ways that hurt Pittsburgh early on with some of the empty stuff and zone run stuff and things like that. You saw that on the first possession, for example. But Pittsburgh overall, a bend but don't break approach, and that's kind of how I sum up this defensive performance. So if Cleveland had some moments, they had some success, they're going to have that. But Pittsburgh did not give up the big play in the pass game and the run game, and they played really good red zone defense, and so those were the difference makers in this one.
Absolutely they were.
And tackling as well. I can't wait for Josh Carney's report, because it may have only been 6-7 missed tackles in this one. Certainly not the 19 that Pittsburgh's defense had against Seattle week 6. So clean it up in a big way.
Yep, for sure.
All right.
Here's the thing though. Are you want to talk about offense now or what?
Yeah, well, I was going to go to the offense, but if you have another thought, then
go ahead.
Feel free. Yeah, just for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in this one, again, it wasn't always pretty, but more physical up front, ran the ball well. Najee Harris continued to be in the guy, but all these rookies stepping up. It was the Najee Harris, the Pat Freiermuth show. Those guys were making the big-time plays, and none bigger than Freiermuth's just incredible juggling, toe-tapping catch on 4th and goal. A situation there where you would normally kick the field goal down 10-9 and just take the points there and take the lead, but you had to go for it, and Freiermuth makes some difficult catches, but that one probably the most difficult catch he's made so far in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform.
Yeah, and to hear Ben Roethlisberger talk, I want to see that Joshua Dobbs playbook.
Yeah, right. Josh Dobbs for OC. For sure.
Yeah, I want more. I want a Joshua Dobbs media session this week. I guess I can't get it because he's on IR. Can't request it, but I want to know what's going on with Joshua Dobbs on that sideline over there, because Ben sure does like to talk about drawing up plays these last couple years, and he's not afraid to mention Joshua Dobbs' name when running down the list of people that are involved in drawing up these plays on top of it. So to hear Ben talk, they kind of Coke bottle top that one up in the old dirt there on the sideline there, and to hear Ben talk too, I think Claypool's probably the primary on that, and he saw the back was turned to the defender on Freiermuth, and anytime you see a guy with his back turn, you take a chance that your guy can make the play, and Freiermuth did just that. Props to him on he had talked earlier during the preseason and training camp about getting used to having the 2 feet down versus the one foot down as opposed to college, and man, there's no doubt about it when you go back and look at that replay. At first, I kind of wondered, I don't know, did he get that? Did he have control and get it down? But the slowed down replay of that just absolutely confirms it. So huge play by him. You look at his stat line overall too, and you see what 4 for, was it 44? 4 for
yes.
Obviously, one of those being the touchdown was monumental. Another catch that he had over there on the left side was well short of the chains, and he broke the tackle right after making that catch there, and got a lot of nice yards on that as well too. So I don't know if that was a second or third down play. I'm drawing a blank on that real quick here, but I thought to myself, boy, that's a huge play in the game, and that's why you got a guy like that, and that's why you wind up drafting a guy like him early, because you hope that he can make plays, game-changing plays in a game, and two of them for sure Pat Freiermuth had in this one.
Just an incredible amount of trust shown so quickly, developed so quickly between Ben and Pat, and Ben's talked him up so often that he's almost had to stop himself and say, I can't give out more compliments. But just a lot of trust there for Freiermuth to be in the right position, to understand leverage, to make the tough catch. And it's been obvious. Anyone who's watched Freiermuth since camp has said the same thing. So I'm not the only one saying this, but I've said all camp that Freiermuth catches everything, and he catches everything. And that was such a tough play to make, and a big time moment on the road. And so, I remember Tomlin on Tuesday talking about, what guys are going to step up in AFC North football on the road and really elevate their game. He was talking about second-year guys like Chase Claypool, like Alex Highsmith. Well, how about a rookie in Freiermuth stepping up there in his second AFC North game of his career and making the biggest play of the season maybe for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
You got to take your hat off and hand it to him, right? Four rookies played considerable amount of snaps in that game on the offensive side of the football for the Steelers. And, once again, style points don't count, but you come out of with a big road win there, and with four of those rookies playing a considerable amount of snaps there. So, you got the W. That's what counts there. And Ben said a few weeks ago that he has to do a better job of getting the ball to Pat Freiermuth. Right? Those were his specific words
right.
on a Ben Wednesday there. Well, I think since uttering those words, Freiermuth has 11 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown in the last two games. So he's doing just that.
Yep, exactly. And I know that this was partially because Eric Ebron did not play, but 78% of the snaps are Freiermuth in this game. That is a season high for him, and you're just going to keep playing this guy going forward because his play is certainly earning more snaps.
Who else you're going to keep playing at the tight end position as well, too, I think?
Yeah, Zach Gentry, man. Talk about underrated guys of this offense. I am pleasantly surprised and impressed by the jump he's taken from year 2 to year 3, and he needed a jump like that, and he's certainly gotten it.
Absolutely, and I thought that was probably Gentry's best game as a professional.
Yeah, I think so too. Certainly his most effective game as a receiver, getting wide open there on that one. I think he even joked, he was surprised to see himself that wide open, a 24-yard gain in the fourth quarter that eventually led to that Freiermuth touchdown. So him as a blocker in the run game and pass pro sometimes as well, he's done a good job. So yeah, even if Eric Ebron comes back for the Bears game, how much are you going to play this guy when Freiermuth and Gentry are playing well? You're running the ball really well when those guys are on the field. No coincidence that, whenever those guys have played more, this team has run the ball better collectively. Not that it's all on the tight ends, but certainly a component of it. So, yeah, I don't know what Ebron's role is going to be because it's not like his role in the past game was very big to start. And with Freiermuth and Gentry playing well and being young guys who are the future of this team, you just kind of keep rolling those guys out there.
It's kind of we talked about this, and I had my tinfoil hat on. You not so much. You didn't have you might have had yours on, but I don't think it was buckled.
I can't compete with yours. You got the latest model.
Well, do you? Is your tinfoil hat maybe at least buckled now when it comes to Ebron in the next 48 hours, 24 hours, however many hours?
It's less than that. It's about 28 hours. If I'm getting traded, the question is, though, I'm not opposed to the idea necessarily, but what are you going to get for him?
Sure.
Really market for Eric Ebron, who's caught 8 passes this year, can't block.
But he's. Look, you're talking about a guy too that. He's Eric Ebron has probably is seeing the writing on the wall at this point, right? He's kind of said as much
sure.
in media sessions there. I just can't. Here's what I'm getting at here. I don't think this is going to go. I don't think it's going over well deep down inside of Eric Ebron's soul right now.
Yeah, I think for anyone, any receiver or quasi receiver like Ebron is, they want the football. So I don't think anyone's happy not catching many passes. But I don't know if it's had an impact on. I mean, he's handled it professionally. Talked about how he's just shutting up and playing and putting in the work. So I don't know if it's hurting anybody by him not getting involved in this offense too much. But again, that doesn't create trade value for him if teams aren't going to come calling just because Ebron's not getting the football in Pittsburgh.
I mean, what would you have to have from? And look, several weeks ago, this is along the lines of kind of the Melvin Ingram talk. And no way a few weeks ago was I considering because of what you already did with Ebron, restructured his contract and all that. That forces you, in other words, that money's ate at this point. So It's not like you saved the money against the cap now by trading them at this point. It all comes down to what you get on the backside and how the player might affect your locker room potentially moving forward. I think to some degree that plays into this potentially now at this point. What would you have to get in order to move? Because injuries can happen. I mean, you're one play away from Ebron being back in the primary thing. Now to Ebron's credit, to looking at some of these TikToks and whatnot and Instagrams, Ebron traveled with the team, whereas
he was in that video. He seemed happy. Obviously, he wasn't. He was just happy to get the win.
Right. Whereas Ingram did not, according to reports.
Right.
So I guess it comes down to what are you any closer to maybe thinking Ebron could potentially be dealt here in the next 24 hours than you were when we did the show on Friday?
No, not really. I mean, it's not that I'm opposed to it. I would listen if a team came calling, but I don't know. I don't think that phone's ringing too hot for Eric Ebron right now. And if he was an issue down the road about playing time or this team starts losing or whatever, then you could just probably end up cutting the guy. I mean, at that point, if it's week 11, week 12, but there's nothing that indicates that he's an issue right now. And so, I mean, this team's winning and he's relatively happy. I mean, he's probably not happy with the role, but a lot of guys probably aren't happy with their role right now. As long as you're doing the right thing and working, and it seems like he is, then I'm good with it.
I mean, it's almost to the point now if your other two are healthy at this time and you need a guy that can play on special teams. I mean, you could almost consider making Ebron inactive in certain situations right now, right?
Yeah, I just think to the broader point. I mean,
you could dress another wide receiver. I mean, if you had brought one up, something along those lines, or dress him if you're so hell bent on dressing four running backs and a fullback every game. I think there becomes a plausibility factor here that moving forward past this week and assuming he does not get traded, then I'm not so sure we haven't seen I'm not so sure that we won't see Ebron be a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I think he'll still be active. I think there's something to the different, dynamics that each guy brings. Each guy, Freiermuth, Gentry, Ebron are kind of unique in terms of what their overall base skill set is. Freiermuth more the hands, route runner, overall well-rounded guy. Gentry the bigger blocker type, and Ebron, still can run a little bit, kind of more of the athletic guy. So I think Ebron will still dress and play, but I think you'll see a reduced role just to keep guys fresh. Obviously, you don't want to overburden a rookie in Freiermuth and Gentry, who's not played a ton of football in his NFL career. But certainly, I think the focus right now on the snaps and the direction of this team in this room is Freiermuth and Gentry. Can Ebron still have a role and still carve out 15 snaps a game? Sure. But this team's running well. This team's playing well with Freiermuth and Gentry. They are the future. Ebron's not going to be here next season, so that's where I put my focus at.
The improvements that Gentry has made so far. I mean, you get a lot of times we have talked about me thinking, man, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see 21 or 22 personnel out there if Ebron's going to be part of it. I don't mind right now seeing 21, 22 personnel out there right now with Ebron. And with Gentry and Freiermuth right now, you have to think that the coaches see this right now as well too, right? I mean, you go back and I hate to keep pulling back up 2010, 2011 tape, but man, when Ben was the last time Ben was really, really effective with kind of small ball. That was it in the years because you had two very capable, at least average or above tight ends on the field, and one of them, I believe, obviously being a blocking one in Matt Spaeth there, right? But I'm not so sure. Once again, based on what I saw on that tape, let me ask you this. If Ebron had even not been a scratch for that game, how much does he see the field against the Browns in that game?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, depends on what their rotation and their game plan would have been coming into that thing. But again, it's not a coincidence that whenever we're seeing Freiermuth and Gentry and those guys play more, this running game has improved. And again, that's an offensive line thing. That's a running back thing. It's not only on the tight ends, but it's part of it. And so I would just say going forward, I think Freiermuth is the clear-cut starter. He's going to play the majority of the snaps, the most snaps of those three, and then it might be more of an even split with Gentry and Ebron going forward, and then whoever plays more may be dependent on the situation. If it's a more run-heavy game plan and run-heavy game circumstance, and Gentry probably plays more. If it's more pass-heavy, then it might be more of Eric Ebron. So I think those guys are kind of split in time going forward.
I hate to rip into an explosive play in the second longest one of the game that the team had, but blown coverage on that pass to Gentry for starters, right? Obvious blown coverage. Did you think right when that play happened, he caught it, that he was going to get a lot more yards than what he did?
Yeah, but then you kind of remember he's Zach Gentry and he moves not great. And so, yeah, the only way he catches 24-yarders is if he's running straight or somebody blows the coverage. But, his longest catch since his final year at Michigan. So kudos to him. He's not done much in the passing game. He's kind of here to be a blocker first. So it's good to see him get the reward of a lot of work paying off.
I just thought that maybe he should have ran over, got to break a tackle there.
I don't think he's capable. He'll just fall forward and hit somebody, but he ain't breaking tackles.
Once again, leave it on Uncle Dave to try to produce a negative in a positive situation there. But I couldn't help but thinking when that happens, like, damn, how did he not get more yardage there? But good to him, and look, good for them on the scheme too. That they saw something. You never expect a blown coverage there, but that's what they got. And good kudos for Ben finding it right there in the middle of the field like that as well too. It's a big play. Kind of reminiscent maybe of the play, I guess, a little bit of that Buffalo play with Freiermuth middle of the field.
May have to go back and check and compare and contrast, but yeah, definitely a blown coverage by the Browns in this one. Just the overall passing game, it wasn't certainly prolific across the board for anyone, but some of the RPO game working really well. Chase Claypool, they got them down to the two that yet led to the Pat Freiermuth touchdown. Deontay Johnson, the 50-yard play. I thought Johnson had a really good game. The routes that he ran were great. He was getting a ton of separation. Vertically, getting underneath. Yeah, I mean, he did a great job.
I mean, there were several. You go back and if you see him on the TV tape like that, imagine what you're going to see, on the all 22 tape. But he had a lot of separation on a lot of different plays there for sure, and he gets up on those corners and steps on their toes so quickly that they start bailing out of there. And he's cutting more. He's not slipping. You notice that?
I hadn't thought about that, but I guess he was really bad at it. That's a good point.
And I mean, they're just mega separation on at least three targets, I think, his way. And I think that you probably see some stuff on the tape on balls that he wasn't targeted on, having some nice separation there. So kudos to him.
Yeah, just overall, this was a very old school kind of game, from the score being 15-10, playing old school run defense, old school offense, spreading the ball around. Ben only completed 11 passes to receivers. Claypool and Deontay were responsible for 10 of those 11. You had guys like Harris and Freiermuth and Gentry, tight ends, backs, catching the football as much as receivers in this game overall. And so it was very much just kind of an efficient spread the football around. No one guy had super, super gaudy numbers. Johnson, that 50-yarder, certainly helped pad the stats, and that was a big play at the end of that thing, but just a very old school, like 2003 feeling win all around for Pittsburgh.
I don't know, kind of 2010-ish a little bit. Obviously didn't connect deep. In fact, if there's a negative to take away, is that Ben was, I think, 0-3 on passes of more than 20 yards down the field. Now, he did have a little bit better grouping in the middle of the field past 8 yards there. So there is that. They still managed to look. I mean, you got to have explosive plays, and they got to halftime, and I don't think they had any explosive plays, right? And that was worrisome at that point there. But they ended up with, I think, 4 explosive plays in total. We discussed one with the Gentry blown coverage. Obviously, the other one was the quick slant on the RPO to Deontay that produced a double explosive play. So I guess technically you could count that as 2 there. But this team has got to still be able to push the football down the field better than they're doing right now. They got out of this game without connecting down the field against the Browns. But how many times are you going to be able to get away with doing that? So
sure,
they got to be able to, this was one of those games where you checked enough of those small boxes that it made a difference and you got to win. But, 15 points is 15 points. How many games is this team going to win with 15, 18 points in a game?
Right. No, I agree. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, and the offense has not been as potent as it needs to be, but that's just kind of how the game was yesterday. No one had big plays. No one had explosion. I think you said Pittsburgh won the talk stat. You called it, right? You said they had to be +2 talk stat in this game. They ended up being +2 talk stat in this game?
Yeah, it felt – and this is a Steelers team, too, that's been – they've not only bucked the talk stat, but – they've had other teams buck the talk stat against them on top of it there. So, heading into this game, the Steelers haven't really been a talks-friendly, team, and it really, really felt like they were going to have to hit the +2 number on this. And for those that just maybe catching up, the talk stat is the turnover, explosive play. Add those together and get a differential between the two teams. The numbers say that if a team wins the talks battle by +2 or more in any one game, 80% of the time or more, or 80% on average, the team with the +2 or greater wins the football game. And it really felt like that was going to be the case. That's why I was a little bit worried at halftime there. Man, you lost your kicker. No explosive plays. Yeah, you're running the football well there, but they did, I think, end up registering 4 explosive plays in the second half. 2 that we already mentioned there, and then the turnover is a key portion of that, because that puts you to 5 to, I think, the Browns 3 explosive plays there. So do you win that game without either A, that extra explosive play, or B, that turnover? You hate to I hate to continually boil games down to things like that, but it's hard not to, as long as you've done this and you look at the analytics behind it.
Right, but they made those plays.
Right,
that's all that matters.
Yeah,
and you're right. The offense for Pittsburgh did not have explosive plays, or generally speaking, did not have explosive plays, but neither did the Browns. So if your offense isn't creating those, your defense better be stopping those. And this defense, although it's had its warts this season, is certainly good enough to limit those kinds of things and keep you in ball games and have them be close, competitive, and come down to the end, and we'll see what happens. And so, yes, this offense needs to be more explosive and potent and things like that, but they are in the right direction, and they're built well enough to be able to survive not having a super potent big play kind of offense.
As Mike Tomlin would probably say right now, if we were asking him about all that, he'd probably say, we did enough to get out of the stadium.
Yeah, he would not care about any of this. He'd say, we got the win, scoreboard, all that matters.
Right, and that is obviously all that matters here. There's one stat that matters on Monday mornings after a Sunday, and that's a win or loss, and they got it. Once again, I thought there were too many boxes for this team to have to check in order for them to get a W against the Browns, and they really checked pretty much all of them except for the Myles Garrett versus Dan Moore, and I guess within that, let's kind of focus on that. I wrote up that this team's got to get miles of help. They've got to consistently chip or put a tight end, just somebody poking them in the ribs. I think your X factor in this game that you wrote up was Dan Moore in this game. It's hard not to look at Myles Garrett as being a captain obvious guy that you have to be worried about heading into this game. They didn't do a great job on him top to bottom, but I guess good enough. Was it like, have at it, brother? Or, I was a little surprised that they did not give Dan Moore. You can't do it every play. You just cannot have a running back or a tight end, helping over there every play. You just can't do it. You can't even 50% it, in my opinion. but they were even kind of lower in the help department with him over there than I even thought they would be.
Agreed. And they were an empty more than I thought they would be, because when you're an empty, obviously you're getting no help. And Cleveland did a really good job against empty. They would have the 3-tech kind of really be outside shade on the left guard to cover him up and make sure that the left guard couldn't slide and immediately give help to Dan Moore. And it really put Moore on an island several times. And yeah, he did not do well in pass pro against Myles Garrett. He was just really bad. But we knew that coming in. We knew that's an impossible matchup for him to be in. And I thought Pittsburgh could have and should have given him more help overall. But while Garrett had the sack, Garrett did not change the game. He did not make the play that had the forced fumble or the big turnover or fourth quarter sacks that got the Browns the victory, obviously. And so I'll take it in this one. You learn from it. I did not expect Moore to play well. He did not play well, but you do it in a victory, and you'd rather do it in victory than do it in a loss.
Take your lumps in the W, as we've been had the opportunity to say a couple times so far this season here. There's going to be more bad from Dan Moore Jr. moving forward this season. I think the most interesting aspect when you look at him right now at this point of the season and what probably likely lies ahead for him the rest of his rookie season is, what does he learn from this rookie season, and how does that maybe change his conditioning, his offseason program, his training? How does that? It matters more. I guess what I'm getting at is it matters more about Dan Jr. right now, 6 games into 2022. I think, in other words, it's okay to look at him. It's okay to criticize him. He's going to have probably some more bad moving forward here. But you definitely, I think, regardless of what happens, you don't throw that baby out with the bathwater right now. I think the biggest turning point with him and line in the sand with Dan Moore Jr. will be 6 games into the 2022 season. Good for him, and Ben even kind of joked that now Dan Moore can get some sleep or what and all right now. But there's a guy named Khalil Mack that's I don't know how healthy he is at this point, and I don't know how I think Mack for the most part generally plays on the left side, does he not? But I
think so. They can move him though, and they probably will.
Right, they can move him, probably will. So you're not out of the woods yet, but. It was a big boy pants game for Dan Moore Jr. And the fact that Garrett did not have a game-changing play, as you mentioned there, was probably one of the most, the biggest byproduct of the thing that came out of that matchup between Dan Moore Jr. and Myles Garrett.
That's what matters most. And I'm not going to judge Moore too harshly on this game, although, again, he did not play well. But I'll say this, though. Every single game Dan Moore plays from now on, it just got a lot easier. It's a lot easier. That next guy's going to be a lot easier to go against than it is when you face Myles Garrett. So, it's you survive, you live, the team gets the win, you move on, and that's the toughest matchup Dan Moore will have until, of course, he faces Myles Garrett again in Week 17. But even that matchup will be easier this time around because he's seen him, he's known him a little bit, he survived it, and so you're not as worried about it maybe. So every game from now on will be a little bit easier when you go against a top guy like Myles Garrett.
It's got to be the feet that need the improvement, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
it's got to be the footwork, right?
Against Garrett, it's everything. More struggle with power, he struggled with speed. Yeah, I think just keeping your feet moving, keeping a good base, keep sliding. He's tried to flash his hand sometimes and try to get guys to commit. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. So it's hard to put it down to one thing. But just trying to be consistent overall and just being better with your hands, I think, is the key.
After watching a lot of Texas A&M film, the biggest takeaway positive that I came away from Dan Moore Jr. was his hands. Okay, so I still think he's okay with his hands. Obviously, I think they can get better. But where I was really thinking, man, he's got to get a better kick. Because those guys like Garrett will beat you to the edge. If they beat you to the edge, they're gonna rip you. And
it's tough because if you go over set, then you're gonna get beat inside. Because Villanueva used the vertical set, and because he could have the length to just seal edge moves, and it's a little harder for Dan Moore to do that kind of stuff.
So where do you think he's got to improve the most? I think he's got to improve the most with his hand, with his footwork. But you think more so in a technical maybe sense in hand play.
Yeah, everything's obviously dependent on each other. I mean, you can't have good feet and bad hands. You can't have good hands and bad feet. And so I think it all has to get better for Dan Moore. I don't know if it's one particular issue. I mean, I've seen issues with his feet. I've seen issues with his hands. So it's been some popcorn kind of things. So it's just overall just trying to have those things, feet and hands work together, dependent of each other, and just be more consistent overall. But I'll have to do a deep dive into his rookie season after this year and kind of maybe really, nail down a couple key areas for him.
All right, but from where you're at right now, just loosely, you would say his hands are better than his feet, though, right?
Well, define what his issues with his feet are. You said about his kick.
It just seems like he's not moving. He's not moving his feet enough sometimes, and he's not being able to when he does. He does tend to overset when he tries to get off too quick at times, and that opens up the gate the other way there. But to me, it's just that initial get off that there seems to be some false steps going on at times.
Okay, I'll have to go back and check. I mean, with his hands, I don't think his hand use is bad. I'm saying sometimes he'll try to flash his hands and fake a punch and get the defender to try to throw his hands to knock down his hands or stuff like that. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. So I don't know. I mean,
I'm not saying his hands are great either. I'm just saying that I think his hands are better than his feet.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's fair to say everything can improve with Dan Moore, which is natural for a rookie. 7 games in his career.
All right, big grow up game for him. At least I'll know a little bit more what to expect the next time these two teams get together.
For sure. Rest of the offensive line, I thought, did pretty well. Again,
Trey Turner, that was the best game we've seen, or at least I think when we get to the all-22 on this, which is probably now, I haven't looked. We got it
I haven't
yet?
checked if it's up yet, but probably.
I think we're going to come away thinking that might have been Trey Turner's best game since
4 years ago in Carolina.
It might be. He really, at least on the TV copy, I thought stood out really, really well in that. But I thought Kendrick Green played well overall, especially in the run snaps there. Dotson up and down. Okorafor I thought was good in the running game. Maybe not so much in the pass protection game there. But I have a feeling that the next time you and I talk, when we get a better look at this all-22, we'll probably be raving the most about Trey Turner.
Yeah, I just think the overall physical tone and nature the O-line played with across the board, not just one guy, is the most impressive thing that I saw at first glance, and I think definitely will be reflected in the All-22. I certainly plan to do a video breakdown on that. It's my first video probably for Tuesday or for Wednesday. But some of the penalties, though, still an issue. Two penalized overall as a Steelers team, and so that's got to get reduce some of that negativity and things like that. But overall, this O-line continues to take strides, and that's the most important thing. You're just getting better every single game.
What do you think about that early illegal formation penalty on Okorafor?
Yeah, it's technically correct. So I guess it's the best kind of correct, they say. But that was a good play for Pittsburgh off of that too, wasn't there? They got that wiped out a positive gain, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough. Some of those just Steelers beating Steelers, small things that you can work on and get better at. And so, you got to clean up the penalties because it was, 8 penalties for 65 yards as a team, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, what'd you have? Dotson had a holding call that wiped out a big one.
Green had one that wiped out the 2-point conversion. It was a little ticky-tack. Some of the, obviously, officials in this game weren't great, but yeah, some stuff to work on.
All right, what else you got?
I think that's it. Yeah, I was going to mention the Ben quarterback draw on the 2-point conversion. I wish that would have stood. I know Ben said as much after the game, and that would have been kind of a throwback play there for him. A 4x1 thing. Looking for the slant, that's taken away. The whatever it was to the quad side, that's taken away. Ben's tucking it and running it, but did not happen, unfortunately, or it did not count, I should say.
Yeah, that seemed like we was timing that with a calendar, though. It took forever, but he got there. It's a shame that it didn't stand either for him.
Yeah, but special teams, I guess we should talk about that and how bad they were overall. The fake field goal aside, you had the fumble by Ray. You had a penalty on Snell, which I know he's just diving for the punter, and the punter kind of lands on him, but they're going to call that every single time. You had to delay a game, as you mentioned, on the punt. Just a really bad day on special teams all around. It's a very bad day for the Danny Smith Forever Club, which is still just me, but not a good day for that club.
Yeah, the bad punt by Harvin after the delay wasn't something to stand up and cheer about. Ray's got to start catching some of those, man. Right?
Yeah, it's always hard to tell, what your depth is at, and maybe if the punter just short kicks it, then you never want to. If you're not comfortable getting under the punt or thinking you can get there in time, then I'm good with just letting it bounce and just having it, lose 5 extra yards as opposed to risking the fumble there. But yeah, you don't want to see those bounce, and then guys got to get out of the way. You had one where Lane and Pierre were like kind of watching the football as it was bouncing around them, which is always scary, and almost created a turnover there. So just a lot of things to work on, little things to clean up.
I hate to be Davy Downer, but one of those is going to come back to he's one of those going to come back to haunt this team with him doing that.
If he just feel like he can get under the football, though, would you rather have the ball bounce or risk fielding it and then dropping it?
Well, he's got to make better judgment decisions when that ball comes off the leg. I think he's got to be better at judging where that thing is going to go. I think
right
because
probably.
Just mark my words, we're going to be talking about that, unfortunately. So I hope I'm wrong. Like predicting that the Steelers are going to lose this game. But look, 4-3, man. I mean, the way this team started, and if you go back and you would have drawn out the first 7 games of this thing, you probably have them losing to the Bills. You probably have them beating the Raiders. You probably have them beating the Bengals. What was after the Bengals game?
The Raiders game.
No,
Raiders, Bengals, and then Packers.
Right, you probably have them losing to the Packers, so you probably have them 2-2 at that point. You probably have them beating the Broncos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you probably have them losing to the Browns, right? Or toss-up game. So, here they are, 4-3. It's a weird way they got there, but they got there. So, and that's all that matters. And you've got now, we talked about ahead of this thing how coming out of the bye week that this team has 3 very winnable games against the Browns, the Lions, and the Bears. And if this team can somehow manage to get to 6-3, those last 8 games, you could go 500 and still have your 10 wins, and 10 wins should get you in the playoffs, you would think. Playoffs. But, here they are. So, now you're here. You got the toughest one of the 3 out of the way by beating the Browns on the road. One of these other 2 teams that you play in these next 2 weeks is winless right now, and they got the snot beat out of them by the Eagles on top of there. Who are the Bears? Well, we're going to find out on Monday night, but don't mess up now, I guess is what I'm saying. You got a very good opportunity to be 6-3 after your first 9 games here, and looking at the back end of the schedule, you better be.
Yeah, you're in good position. You don't want to assume anything. I think the Bears are improving. They played the 49ers tough yesterday, and even the Lions. I don't want to discount them at all, even though obviously Pittsburgh should win that game. But you're in good position, and that started with getting a really tough, well-earned victory Sunday on the lake.
All right, what was the most surprising thing to come out of the game against the Browns? If I would have told you this team scored 15 points, you tell me they lost, right?
Yes, I think every Steelers fan would have said as much.
All right, what's the other? What's one of the other more surprising things to come out of this game? Their ability to run well or the ability to stop the run?
That's what I was just going to say. I'm debating between which one I'm surprised and impressed by more: how well Pittsburgh's offense ran the football, or how well Pittsburgh's defense stopped the run.
We'll just say yes then.
Yeah, you can say yes. I'll say the latter just for the run defense because it's been more of an issue, and you just know the Browns are so good, their personality so well defined that might be an issue. And then again, not just doing it for a half a play and then the score getting out of hand or something like that. It was every single snap, first quarter to fourth quarter, you had to stop the run, and they did that consistently the entire time, and that's really surprising and impressive, obviously.
Yeah, I would agree. They and once again, I just thought, on a weekly basis, at least going into this game, I thought, okay, they got to run the football better. They've definitely got to be able to stop that potent Browns running attack. They're going to have some explosive plays in here. They're going to have, they have to win the turnover battle. You have to keep Myles Garrett away from Ben Roethlisberger through Dan Moore Jr. just so many things, and I thought it's going to be too much for them to overcome. But props to them, they did it. I mean, I know they only scored 15 points, and that's concerning in and of itself. But they got the W, and it's a victory Monday.
15 points more than the opposition, and that's a victory no matter how you slice it. I'll give you a couple of quick stats of the weird. Najee Harris, first Steeler in 4 years to have 20-plus carries in 3 straight games, so that's always good.
Wow.
Around the football well for me. Le'Veon Bell last to do it back in 2017. And T.J. Watt, 58 sacks now in his first 5 years. That's more than any Steelers has through the first 7 years of their career. And so T.J. Watt has more sacks through 5 years than any Steeler has ever done it through 7. And T.J. Watt has more sacks right now than Bruce Smith did through his first 5 years, and Bruce Smith is the all-time NFL sack leader. So T.J. Watt more sacks right now and still half a season to play than Bruce Smith.
How big was Conklin going down? Or was TJ going to ramp up? Because TJ started to ramp up about that time that Conklin went down. Now, Conklin, I think, went down early. But after that, it was like the train was coming at that point. You could start to see that. I mean, he's they're trying to chip him on a running back. They're trying to treat him the way I thought the Steelers should have tried to treat Myles Garrett, but he would read that and just spin back into the inside.
That's why he got the sack. That's why the chip can be bad sometimes too, unless your tackle really knows where that help's coming from. Because Watts, I think, spun because he saw the chip was coming, so he's not going to win outside, and he spun inside, and the tackle didn't set inside well enough, and it got Watt the sack. I mean, that backup they had there has actually done a good job replacing Conklin. Blake Hance, I think is his name. He's actually done okay, but yeah, I mean, Conklin not having him out there is a downgrade for them.
Right, and sacks aside, this is a guy that continually is around the quarterback, and that pressure matters. So sacks obviously are something that you look at. Quarterback hits obviously something you look at, but just once again, it just felt like that train was coming, especially after Conklin. You could feel that he was starting to get pressure there. And what did you think about the late hit on Highsmith?
I mean, it's the right call. It's a high hit.
I thought it was the right call, too.
I mean, it sucks, obviously, but he's hitting them high, and they're going to call that. So that's just how it goes. How about the one that Ben didn't get to? They threw the flag initially, then they wiped the penalty out. I mean, to me, that's a body weight call. I think it's dumb. I mean, I don't like the rule in the first place, but that is the rule, and so I'm not sure why that got negated, but such is life. Yeah,
you kind of won. That's one of those ones if Tom Brady's on the bottom of that, you kind of wonder if that flag gets picked up there,
Right.
If you're gonna, and look, I mean, they should have called that. I thought I didn't understand picking that up at that point. Not a great day by Hockley's crew. I didn't think overall.
Yeah, we need Ed back, not this Sean guy. We need Ed Hockley back. Right, that was Sean Hockley.
Right. Baby guns. Najee Harris now 9th overall in the NFL in combined yards. Now that counts punt return yards and kickoff returns and all like that. So 9th when you combine yardage with 752 yards. A couple of the guys that are ahead of him have quite a few yards in Cordella Patterson and DeAndre Carter from Washington. So if you just yards from scrimmage guy, I think Najee's like right around 7th or 6th in the 7th in the NFL right now when it comes to just yards from scrimmage. And the leader right now, bless his heart, Derrick Henry, 1,091 total yards from scrimmage. Sounds like he might be out for the rest of the season with a foot injury now.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh plays the Titans later this year, correct? So they will, right? They play Tennessee later this year?
Do they? No.
That somebody said they did. Let me check. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't think they do. Do they? Am I losing it?
They do. Yeah. December 19th, week 15. Home game against Tennessee. Yeah. And so
I had a brain fart there. I was thinking
Henry, and also the week before they played Minnesota, and it looks like Danielle Hunter, their all-star pass rusher, has a torn pec, or is believed to have a torn pec, and will miss the season. Ian Rappaport tweeted that about 15 minutes ago. He's going to have an MRI to confirm, but looks like Danielle Hunter not playing in that Minnesota game, week 14.
Yeah, week 15, my bad. How soon we forget what the back end of the schedule looks like.
One last stat of the weird. Guess how many touches Najee Harris is on pace for this season?
420.
400 on the dot.
Okay.
400, which would be the most, I believe, since Edgerrin James by a rookie in 99, I want to say. So, but hey, whatever it takes to win at this point.
I mean, you kind of knew that they were going to be trending close to that. I mean, you'd like to, it sure would be nice to get him out of a game early, right?
Right.
Anthony McFarland, his touches didn't go great yesterday. Kalen Ballage, his touch didn't go great. They did have a nice end around that James Washington wiped out with a hold. That was probably kind of unnecessary at that point there. I like the use of the motion a little bit, the use of the motion. I thought it was well. I thought that one thing I think that's going to stick out in the All-22, I don't know how much you'll be able to pay attention to it, but I thought just the overall timing of the motion of where the player in motion was, his proximity to the quarterback, where it opened up the, at least the perceived notion that could get the ball into a certain situation. I thought that stuck out on the TV tape as well too.
Yeah, just the rhythm of it all, I think.
There you go, rhythm.
Was good in terms of timing up the jets and faking off of it and then running the reverse. They got that big run to Claypool. So, yeah, just good rhythmic. And, again, when you're staying on schedule overall, when your run success rate's decent and to pretty good, then you're able to do those kinds of things you weren't doing early in the year because you were playing behind the sticks on first and second down so often. By the way, here, Adrian Peterson visiting the Titans today. So it looks like the Titans are going to sign AP.
Wow. How things change. We'll see how fungible AP is, right?
Yeah,
I mean, look, that's a big blow to that Titans offense, right? I mean,
yeah, that's an understatement, man. That is their guy. I mean, that guy means more to Tennessee than maybe any other non-quarterback does to their team. So a huge loss.
I mean, we'll see just how fungible maybe Derrick Henry is or isn't at this point. They were able to get out of that stadium with a W there. So you turn around and. There's been times where you kind of some head scratchers when it comes to the Titans, but here they are, and they are 6-2, and they have wins in division against the Colts, the Jaguars, and then the Colts again, and then they even beat the Chiefs in there as well too. So I think they're 3-0 in divisional play, and they obviously lose their key running back in Derrick Henry.
Are they the number one seed in the AFC right now?
Yeah, I think
so. The number one seed, number one team just lost their star running back probably for the season. So yeah. Speaking of the AFC, crazy day in the AFC North. The Ravens on a bye, but the Bengals getting upset by the Jets. The Mike White-led Jets upsetting the Bengals. And so it's really getting logjam status here in a very competitive and talented AFC North.
I tell you, man, this AFC North's going to beat the snot out of each other. It's going to be 9 wins is going to take it, Alex. As I said, you got Cincy losing to the Jets. Hopefully the Steelers don't mess up and lose to either the Bears or the Lions in these next 2 weeks, but it's shaping up to that kind of stuff. And obviously Baltimore on the bye this week here as well too. Now they another key AFC North matchup is next week, right? You have Baltimore and Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's going to mean a lot, obviously, for both sides.
I mean, it's Cleveland and Cincinnati next week.
Yeah, is that what you said or no?
No, I heard Baltimore plays the Vikings at home. So,
okay.
Key Ohio battle there with the Bengals hosting the Browns. Who do you root for in that one?
I mean, there's pros and cons to each.
I think you
root for the Browns just for the Bengals to kind of get knocked down to really muddy up the North even more. No,
I think you want the Browns. I still consider the Browns the superior team. Of the two. So I want the Browns to lose that game to fall even further back in that.
Okay, but if the Bengals lose that and Steelers beat the Bears, then they're going to get one step closer to jumping a place in the AFC North.
Yeah, but I think they can still make it up on the Bengals later on in the season is my viewpoint. I'm going against the grain there, but that's my early thoughts on it.
All right, fair enough. But either way, Pittsburgh win, take care of business against Chicago Monday night, and then, let everything else play out the way it plays out.
Who do you think's the better team right now, the two? The Browns or the Bengals?
I still think the Browns. I mean, I've been higher on the Browns, probably more than most Steeler fans. I think it's just a team with a real clear personality. They got to get more big plays though in the pass game. They got to get more explosion. I mean, that's the thing that's really missing from this team is like that big explosive pass play, and they got to find ways to do that.
All right. Well, I think you made my point for me. If we think the Browns are the stronger team, then we need to root for them to lose.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah, either way, I mean, there's pros and cons to either outcome in that one. But the main thing is Pittsburgh's got to take care of their business, beat Chicago, and the rest falls into place.
All right. What else?
I think that's about it. Yeah, AFC North, AFC recap. Good week 8 overall. So let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Oh, well, I wanted to get one other thing here before we get to the email here.
Mhm.
What is it's impossible to quantify it. I know, impossible or impossible, as I like to say. What, if any, impact do you think Mike Tomlin's really, the way he handled the whole coaching USC stuff this week, could any of that be quantified in playing into this win on Sunday? Any?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sure there was some motivation. I'm sure players were happy to hear that. I know Joe Hayden talked about kind of how that put a smile on his face, but that doesn't make it any easier to tackle Nick Chubb just because Tomlin fires you up, on a Tuesday. So no, I wouldn't say that had any impact.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure because I put out there on
Twitter. Do you think it had an impact?
I don't know how you would.
Sure.
I can't wrap it up or put anything on it. It just, the thought crossed my mind like the 24 hours after it happened and how fired up these Steelers players were, and Joe Hayden saying he wanted to run through a wall, and James Pierre telling Hayden, man, I'm a Steeler. You just got a real sense of man, they got fired up by Tomlin's comments, the way he handled that press conference the other day there. So I just wondered, if we were to fast forward to that point, at that immediate point into Monday, and the Steelers somehow got a hard-fought victory, which they did. How could you quantify any of that?
I think what you can quantify is getting some revenge on Cleveland for last year. I know that doesn't matter to Harris and Freiermuth. That was Tomlin's answer, but there were more guys who were in that game than not, and I think that meant a lot to those guys to get revenge and to kind of quiet the Browns down, because that's all they've heard about for 10, 11 months is how they lost that game and how the Browns are the big brother and, won that game, in big fashion. And I think that was certainly personally, Pittsburgh took that one and wanted to kind of get revenge in this game.
All right. Let's go to the email machine. Morning, fellas. This is Chandler Stroud writes in. Chandler here, and happy Victory Monday. 2-part question here. Number one being, as a whole, should we be more excited about what we seem to be more of a success as an offense as a whole, or the newfound consistency in the running game? Also, number two, defensively, as worried about the defense as we have been in prior weeks, is yesterday sort of an example of the Browns slightly wounded, especially at quarterback, or did the defense show its true capability when it comes to consistently getting off the field? Love to get your thoughts. Thanks, you guys, and always appreciate the work on the site and creating the best terrible content around. Once again, happy Victory Monday. All right. How would you like to attack that? More excited about what seemed to be more of a success as an offense as a whole, or the newfound consistency in the running game? I'll take that end of it there. Should be very happy that the running game, the last 3.5 games, the success rates there, because that's one thing that we highlighted before this season started is, man, we got to see Najee Harris 50% or better run success rate, and you are starting to see that. As far as the rest of the offense is concerned, you got to get more points on the board. I just have a feeling. I mean, the run game being there is nice. That should hopefully start translating at some point to maybe pushing the football down the field a little bit more there. So I guess it's, I think you definitely have to be more impressed or more excited about the consistency in the run game other than the overall offense as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, because we knew that the key to success for Pittsburgh this season is that run game. And certainly everything else has to get better, and you got to put up more than 15 points. And his team overall this whole season's not scoring enough to win. And if you want to get in the playoffs and make some noise there. But they're continually getting better, and you can hopefully imagine and think that, okay, this is where they're at right now in week 8. Where might they be in week 12 and week 14 and week 17 and week 18, and hopefully a playoff run. So hopefully this team continues to stack and get better. And so by the time you're in that week 17, week 18, hopefully playoff game, you're at your best and kind of firing on all cylinders.
As far as his comments and question about the defense there, I thought Baker moved around pretty good overall and took a big hit out of bounds by either was it Hayden or Fitzpatrick over
Hey.
on that side, running him out of bounds, and he was all fired up, got up. I mean, I thought for the most part, now he did miss some throws. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, but on top of it, there were 6 drops in that game overall. I don't think they're able to, on their side of the fence, to talk about a wounded, playing that game with a wounded quarterback. I think, and I think, who was it, Keyshawn or something, has some sort of hot take out there this morning that the Browns should have played Case Keenum. I didn't feel that way. I thought their better chance of winning that game, based on what we saw and the way it played out, was them having Baker at quarterback. I thought that was the right choice.
Yeah, Baker was not the reason why they lost that game. It was all the skill guys. It was the fumbles. It was the drops. It was not getting the run game going well enough. To me, Baker was the least of their concerns.
Did the Browns lose that game, or did the Steelers win that game?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns certainly hurt themselves more than the Steelers hurt themselves. So from that aspect, if you want to, say that's the Browns lost the game, but I don't think about it in those terms a lot. I don't care about those terms a lot. Pittsburgh did enough to get the win. They made some big plays too. Pat Freiermuth coming up big. I mean, they played without a kicker in the second half and still found ways to win. They made the stops late in this game. So, I generally try to give credit to the team who wins the game.
I agree. I think the Steelers won that game, but not. I think the Browns tried to make it close there.
Yeah, the Browns had more self-inflicted wounds, and that's a reason why they lost this game. If they don't have all those issues, they probably win that game, but you could say that about any team that loses a game,
Let's see. Sim Football Critic writes in, happy Victory Monday, fellas. Okay, let's dive in. What is Tomlin thinking on the fake field goal attempt? I just can't come up with a reason why you do it here. He told Tracy Wolfson that he wanted to be aggressive, and I respect that aspect, but that was a potential 2-for-1 situation. You have to take the points here. I'm a Mike Tomlin fan, and I love him leading this team, but I have to criticize that decision. Question for you guys, is there anything that allows you to agree with that decision at the moment of the game? To save some time here, Sim, I think Alex and I properly addressed all of that early in the show there from all angles. I understand why you are taking issue with it, and I think backing up, looking at everything, trying to do everything in a vacuum, yada yada. Overall, I did not like the call. Period. But I mean, that's where I'm at, of trying to be as objective as possible on this thing.
If I could gain a better understanding, I'm going to attempt to during the week. If I could gain a better understanding of what the look Pittsburgh thought they were getting was, I imagine there was something, then maybe I can understand it more, but I still would have been conservative there. Just take the points. You take the points, you take the lead, you get the ball at halftime. Like, that's a good place to be in a low-scoring game against the Browns.
I mean, this isn't going to linger for the rest of the week, right? It shouldn't. I mean,
unless Boswell is missing more time, unless he's not going to be available, then it's going to be talked about even more. But I think obviously the winning, had the Steelers lost this game, we're talking about the fake field goal as the headline story of this one. And so hopefully it won't linger, because the win will kind of mask the out.
I mean, you get it out of your system because it's topical today, but we shouldn't be talking about this on Wednesday, right?
Again, unless Boswell's missing time, they're going to have to probably bring in a kicker. I mean, just in case, because you don't know what's going to happen with the protocol. Sign someone to the practice squad, get him through COVID protocol and things like that. So it'll probably linger a little bit. But if Bos is good for Monday and kicks well, then it'll be a non-story by then.
All right, buddy Jay Barbati's back. Says, can you explain the rationale behind the date of the trade deadline? There are still so many teams fighting it out, and long season with unforeseeable injuries. You think it could be a bit later in the year, especially with a 17th game now? Don't you think? That's question number one. He says, don't you think the Boz hit was late? Ball was out. Personally, I like the call to fake it, he says, just didn't get the right matchup. Number three, really feel like the AFC North is a race to 9 wins. You're not going to get an argument from me, Barbati. I've been saying that since early in the offseason there. He says, last, just want to take a quick moment to appreciate Colbert. I don't remember ever having 2 draft classes contribute so much so quickly. That's another, we talked about the 4 offensive guys and the amount of snaps that they played, especially in that game yesterday. Loudermilk's been logging more playing time. Norwood didn't play as much yesterday, but he did play. I mean, you getting snaps out of that class there. So yeah, I mean, kudos to Kevin Colbert on this draft class so far. All right, I think Alex and I both think the hit on Boz was late. He says he's okay with the fake there. What would you tell him about the trade deadline and where it sits? How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't know the origins of why that date was picked. I know there's only so many games to play in the NFL, so you don't want to make it too late because our team's going to trade for guys to get maybe just 4 or 5 games out of them. So I'm generally, I guess, okay with it. Usually by this time, you have some pretty clear buyers and some pretty clear sellers. Always teams in between, but that's true no matter when the trade deadline might be. So, I mean, the NFL trade deadline is not exactly a very active time anyway, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot to me.
I mean, I think it could. I see where he's coming from. I see where maybe you could maybe push it back one more week, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
sure, yeah, I'm fine with that. But it's not. I mean,
right.
Take it or leave it. I'm not losing sleep over it.
John Lilly writes in, laterals in modern NFL is the title. He says, hey guys, as always, you're the best in the business. Thanks for your time and insight. I was watching some old NFL highlights and came across some laterals. It made me remember just how often players in the 90s used to lateral the football. Carter and Moss had it down to a science back in the day, and it seemed like an open field turnovers. The ball was almost always moved to a corner or a safety. Obviously, there's a huge emphasis on protecting the football there these days, but are there any other reason you guys think we see far fewer laterals in today's NFL? It seems to me that under the old rules, it was worth the risk because driving the length of the field was so difficult, but with the new offense-friendly rules, possession is considered more valuable. If this is the case, do you think offenses that are struggling should consider giving their players the option to lateral more freely? I mean, that's a question out of nowhere. Good one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just know, ball security, possession of the football, for the reasons you mentioned, the reader mentioned, are the most important thing that you can do as an offense. It's not to give the other team an extra possession, a short field, a momentum kind of game-changing play. But I have thought about, if I was someone ever made me a head coach or an OC, which would be a terrible mistake, I would install a hook and ladder based offense because I think that could be effective. We've seen that over the years. I think that would be interesting to try to run. So I think it's an interesting question, but ball security is just the most important thing, and that's why you don't want to risk increased chances of turning the football over.
Yeah, look, I think he makes a good point too about offense. With the rules in the NFL here, to be able to move the ball a lot more. You don't want to risk the ball security if you get a team to turn the football over to you or whatnot. I don't know if I want to risk all that. Lateraling back and all like that. I don't know. It'd be one of those things that I pose that same question to Bill Belichick, see if you could get him to talk for 30 minutes on it.
That's a good question. Yeah, but I think we know the numbers. When teams turn the football over, their chances of winning go down big time. And so, is the risk worth the reward, or is the reward worth the risk? I guess is the way I should frame it, and it probably is not. The numbers probably tell you it's not worth it.
Okay, good question. Good to hear from you, John. Richard Hudspeth writes in, good day, Dave and Alex. Thank you for all the coverage. You guys are awesome. After Alex, a few weeks ago, you said he was just trying to enjoy what most likely is Ben's last ride. I've decided to take that approach as well. There's a couple things that I don't believe get caught in the ruckus of Steelers fans. Examples: when did Gentry become an acceptable player? That's cool. This line has gotten better every week under a new O-line coach. What's the biggest surprise positive that you guys have noticed this year? Thank you for reading my question. Look, I mean, Gentry has made strides, and I guess looking back at it, you could look at maybe at some of those instances, especially in the blocking category, for him during the preseason, that made us kind of stand up and take notice. I got to admit, I thought Gentry was a very questionable 53 player way before training camp got started there. But the Steelers obviously have seen something in him and continued on with that conversion on him, and it's starting to pay a little bit of dividends right now. And like I said earlier in this show, man, I got no issue right now if you want to roll some 21 or 22 personnel out there with Freiermuth and Gentry if you're going to do that helps keep Ebron off the field in those situations, I'm for it. So I think within that becomes one of the, I guess, bigger surprises, positives, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is just that Zach Gentry's impacting some stuff here. Not hugely, but he's impacting some stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's quietly paid off some really good dividends for this offense. So yeah, in terms of the biggest surprise, I mean, I don't know if there's one thing that sticks out. I mean, you knew this offensive line would get better. You knew that they were going to improve. To me, the question was just how much better and how quickly. And I think how quickly this group has kind of really started to come together. Again, not perfect, but especially in the run game, how quickly it started to really gel has been surprising, and of course, a positive way.
Look, I mean, ran the ball well, played good defense. Ben didn't make mistakes, and as a team didn't turn the football over, right? I mean,
those are the keys to winning any game, but especially that one.
Especially that one there. Nicholas Gooden writes in, first things first, happy Victory Monday. Now I need to vent quickly. I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. I want him to be the Steelers head coach for a while. However, there are certain things he does that irk the crap out of me. For someone who preaches not living in their fears, he is extremely fearful in the end of first halves. The Steelers offense needs as many possessions as they can get, so I don't understand why Mike Tomlin always concedes to go into the halftime and time again and not be aggressive and try to put some more points up. I understand there was no buzz this time, but you have the ball at the 40 with multiple timeouts. Needs to show some confidence in your offense to at least try to do something. He says, am I crazy, Nick? What do you think about them not trying to do anything at the end of the half there with the field position?
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Because as the broadcast said, if you get down even to the Browns 30, you can't kick a field goal. So, you have to get a touchdown there, and you're obviously getting a touchdown probably aren't going to happen. I mean, you can't blame Tomlin for not being aggressive enough at the end of the first half in that game. I mean, they tried the fake field goal, which is the most aggressive thing that you could do. It was, that was the opposite of living in your fears, and obviously it did not work out. So, I mean, in that instance, you can't blame Tomlin for not being aggressive. He was, I think many would argue, over-aggressive there.
Yeah, at least try to do something there. I'm kind of with the email there, at least.
But the only way you get points there is if you put the ball in the end zone, right?
Yeah. Take a shot or something.
So I don't know. I mean, with Myles Garrett, the way he was rushing, Ben getting crushed, I'm actually okay with taking it either.
I understand why we got the question though. Mike Odessa writes in, "Hi guys, asked this question Monday on the YouTube chat, but I think you focused on the wrong part of my question. While I think Deontay, wait a minute, this might be a follow up to a follow up here. Let's see. Here's the follow-up. Hi, guys. What a wonderful team win, especially by the team MVP, Cam Hayward. He just doesn't quit. Amazing. Another note, Alex, I apologize, but your boy Danny Smith and, frankly, Tomlin and Harvin need to be better prepared. Harvin should have been practicing kickoffs at a minimum at the end of every practice and probably kicks too. Unacceptable how unprepared they all were. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know exactly how much Harvin does or does not practice that stuff. I'm sure it's not much, but usually that's the situation of the kicker getting hurt is pretty slim and rare. So practicing it and just being competent enough to do it in a game are two different levels, especially for a rookie to do that. So I want to be careful of saying exactly what they do or don't do. But listen, I mean, you lose your kicker, any team's going to be, kind of in that same situation. I mean, unless your punter is a guy who just naturally can do both. I mean, usually those teams are going to be in a pretty bad spot. But I mean, obviously Tomlin, Danny Smith, those guys all get negative marks for what happened on the special teams. Just overall, not just that fake field goal, but just overall, special teams, overall disaster yesterday.
Paul Brown writes in, David Knox, great team win on Sunday. Got to love the resilience in this team and overcoming the loss of Boz. First, for the love of God, when will Keith Butler learn that putting your best pass rusher in TJ Watt on a wide receiver is not an ideal situation? Why are they opting for this scheme? Because it never seems to work. Second, not really a question, just a comment. Ben has seemed to get away with some bad potential INTs ever since the Bengals game. I'm worried his luck is going to run out. Look, I mean, Ben has gotten away with some, but I mean, you go back the last couple of years, Ben's had high interceptable ball rates, if that makes sense. I mean, he has, and sometimes those have gotten taken away. He has dodged a few bullets this week, but I mean, that's part of the other team not making plays, I guess. He has, I mean, there is some reason to be concerned there, but it's not like this is new, if you ask me. I mean, Ben the last couple of years has had kind of a high interceptable ball rate. So I don't think that's going to go away, Paul. I mean, I wish it would, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think that's a really good point and a really good answer there, Dave, and I agree. I mean, yeah, Ben, he
am I
definitely
wrong?
got away with that one. No, you're not wrong at all. Yeah, he's gotten away with a lot, and I don't think he was just okay yesterday. But yeah, that should have been a pick, and I don't know how it wasn't, and that was just what is the decision making? I mean, it's not even like it wasn't even an issue with the physical tools or lack thereof. That's just a terrible decision by Ben to make, and I don't know what he was even hoping to accomplish there.
All right, the whole thing with T.J. Watt on a wide receiver. I mean, you got that comes down to kind of picking your poison or what you want to do schematically, and especially stopping the run. Right? I mean, it's hard to look at, but address it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complaint I've had for a while, and I understand sometimes schematically it's going to force yourself to drop into coverage, and they were trying to play a lot of zone against those empty looks early, and Baker was picking them apart, so they're trying to mix things up and play man. I mean, you guys know my thoughts there. I mean, I understand it's tough to defend empty. It's tough whenever teams go heavy and spread the field out, and your linebackers have to walk out, and they can't rush, and those kind of things can kind of squeeze you, and there aren't any easy answers, but it's been a Steelers killer for years, and I think it'll continue to be that way unless this team makes some big philosophical changes how to address those issues.
I agree. You just they're going to get beat on one of them. I mean, it stands out on us like a sore thumb in certain situations. So there's going to be a team that hits them on one of those.
Yeah, but it didn't happen yesterday, so I guess we'll see. I mean, most teams don't do it the way that Cleveland does it. They seem to be the most aggressive in terms of going heavy and spreading the field out. So, I mean, it's less of an issue against other opponents, but of course it'll be an issue probably again in Week 17.
Brandon writes in that on the fake field goal. That reminded me of when you're playing red light, green light with your friends as a kid, and somebody forgot to yell car. Let's see. Bryce writes in. Okay, guys, it's 4th and 12 on your opponent's 30. I think we already addressed this, and you're down 5 with 3 timeouts. He says kick the field goal and play defense is the right call. I think you can make an argument based on what the other team didn't have at the time, and that was the Steelers and not having the kicker. The analytics say that was a toss-up decision there. So my initial thought was they should have been kicking a field goal on 4th and 12. But, Alex, you say you might have gone for it.
Yeah, well, you make a good case about it. I understand why they went for it, though. Stefanski is just a general aggressive guy. You got a chance to take the lead. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back if you kick the field goal there. So I understand why they made that choice.
He wants to know why Cannon and Clem decided it'd be a good idea to leave Moore on the island so many times with a Garrett. He says lack of common sense schematics and adjustments are just baffling. We spent a lot of time talking about Garrett and Moore early in this podcast, so no sense to rehash that. Cosmo Moore says, what a day to be alive. That was a sweet win. I'm shocked how the Browns didn't stay committed to the run. I think if they had, they might have won. Big props to the offensive line for their continued improvement, especially Dan Moore for limiting the helmet swinger to 1 sack. I thought the Browns did okay staying committed to the run overall. I tell you what was bothering me early was that, I mean, they're a good screen team, man, and maybe they didn't utilize that enough. I don't know. Did you feel at any time that they didn't stay committed enough to the run, though, Alex?
No, they ran the ball, looks like 23 times here. I think they had 58 plays total. This game was close start to finish. So they're as hard to get out of their game plan as any team in football. That's what partly makes them so tough to defend. You just really can't rattle their script too much. And so I don't think there was a situation. Maybe there was one drive where they threw the ball, I think, 3 straight times, and that was a little unusual for them. But overall, I mean, they are as committed to the football as any team committed to running the football as any team in the league.
All right, Dave, I know you like receiver Romeo Doubs from Nevada. How about Jordan Addison from Pitt? Like to know your thoughts. Gary from Reno, Nevada. So Gary watches probably a lot of Romeo Doubs out there. Look, I like a lot of those Nevada guys. Obviously, Cole Tucker, that might be one of the he might be one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends in this class by Cole Turner by the time it gets around to draft time. Just phenomenal. To me, he's Cole Turner's like the tight end version of Chase Claypool, to be quite honest with you. Romeo Doubs is the reason I know who Carson Strong is, because so many Romeo Doubs highlights late last season there. I will say this, though, that watching enough Romeo Doubs, and especially him as a punt returner as well, too, going to be interesting to watch him time, I think, because I don't think he's got that, he might, I think 4.4 will be a very, very positive time for Romeo Doubs if he hits that. He just does not come off of that guy that's just going, you know what I'm saying? He's not going to be that 4.3 guy, that elite speed guy. And I think that's going to end up maybe hurting him overall. He is a guy that can get loose down the field. He's a guy that can test the catch. He's a guy that can really, I think, run any route for you and all. I just, come that time, he's probably not going to be one of those elite guys, though, in this class. Jordan Addison, obviously, I've watched more and more of him over the weeks as well, too. I think he's a very talented kid for Pitt, obviously.
Is he gonna, or both guys gonna run faster than, say, James Washington, who ran like 4.54?
I think Doubs. My thought coming out of this game this past week with Nevada was 4.5 even for Doubs.
Okay, so right around Washington.
Right. Addison, I don't have a good sense yet of what he's going to run. Do you?
Okay. No, I don't. You would have a better sense than I would.
All right. I mean, look, I think both those guys are talented. I don't think they're going to be top of the draft class, obviously. But and when it comes to the Steelers, I really kind of think they need one of those a little bit faster guys, faster than that, though. So most definitely it's going to be interesting to see what Romeo Doubs runs, I think. We've hit quite a few of those. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you really, really quick. You can be honest here. Did you hate my idea? And again, I hope the Steelers don't end up having to trade him, but the idea of swapping Deshaun Jackson for Melvin Ingram? Because Jackson.
Look, I do. Then you get into the whole, the whole tree of life comments, and if you start, he was, what I'm saying, organization, football from a football sense, heck yeah, man. I mean, that guy's 30-something years old, but he can still get on top of people. And if you're going to do it for a half a year rental, and if that's all that maybe you can get, then. From a cap perspective, I don't think I think he might eat up like $1 million for what's left up on the rest of his contract. And if you subtract out what you're giving away in Ingram, I mean, in other words, it's not going to cost you the farm to do it from a cap standpoint. If that's what you can get, and the whole organizational feel off of the comments that he made after that shooting, and I mean that's what's got a lot of people, I think, turned off about him, Steeler fan wise, and understandable for sure. But from a football standpoint, for a guy that can stretch the field, and a guy that, here's the thing, he's getting a lot less than the snaps than he was getting a few weeks ago with the Rams. But can you get him back to getting him, let's say, 22 or 23 snaps a game? I think you could, and it is that enough to keep him happy? And how quickly can he pick up things? And can he be something more than just go deep guy? I think so. I think you could use him on some reverses and things along those lines. So yeah, I mean, that's a long answer to your question, but I mean, if that's what you can get, then I think you should maybe try to get that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a draft pick could be valuable as well. I mainly said the Rams because of Jackson, and then also the Rams coaching staff knows Ingram really well. I think a couple of their coaches, their D-line coach, linebackers coach, were with the Chargers when Ingram was over there, and who's that? Raheem Morris is the DC, and Tomlin's got a good relationship with him, so I think maybe you could sell that easier. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we'll see. I mean, is Melvin Ingram going to be a Steeler by the next time we talk on the podcast?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't know what they're going to get for him. But at this point with him, just there's so much smoke right now, man. It's just hard to imagine. Obviously I would hate to see him go because of what he provides this team and all like that. I don't know if you can talk to him and settle him down or what. I'd much rather have the player, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I would too. It'll be a shame if he's dealt. So, yeah, I think it's 50-50. I'm leaning towards him getting dealt, but we'll see what happens.
Here's the thing when it comes to a guy like Deshaun Jackson, do you want to mess? I mean, how would it be received to bring an outsider like that and mess up that, and would you disturb the confidence in the hierarchy of the wide receiver room? I don't know how to properly phrase that, but
it'd be like James Washington, the most impacted by that. I mean, and he's gone after this year, and I mean, obviously they were not playing him a lot at many points this season. So I don't know if it's in the interest of winning, then you do what it takes to win. If you feel like your team's gonna be better for it, then you do it, and you deal with the rest.
I mean, James Washington, unfortunately was used a lot in the slot this past week. And then had the holding call that that cost the team as well too. I obviously watched a lot of James Washington tape and was big fan of his coming out and all. It's just he's not that guy that is going to stretch the field for you down the field. He'll make some contested catches for you every now and again, and a big catch in there and get you some angry yards after the fact and all like that. But I've said it for several weeks now. This offense is missing a guy that Ben Roethlisberger just throws that thing out there and says, "Go get it."
Right. Yeah. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. That'll be probably our top story on Wednesday is what happens or hasn't happened with Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, I think that will be is what did or didn't happen there. So within that, okay. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upper right navigational bar, make a donation that way. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button for $25 for one calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of the site of Steelers Depot as well, too. A lot of great content going up on the site all day today. Going to be a busy week for us. Usually is after these wins, and then got an extra day on top of it with the Steelers playing on Monday night against the Bears. We'll be doing a live stream tonight, right, Alex, on the YouTube machine?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. 7 p.m. Eastern time. Come hang out with Dave and I, and hopefully I can talk better than I'm talking right now.
All right. I'll just talk as I always talk, which isn't very good. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.